that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want. That's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue sides.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're in our 3 million homes around Louisiana and Mississippi, including New Orleans, Lafayette, and Baton Rouge. We're on twice a week in New Orleans and Lafayette on television, and 3 times a week in Baton Rouge on television. You can watch us on our social media outlets, and the handles will be on the screen. Also, you can see us on YouTube. Please subscribe and become some of our followers, but I think we've maxed out on Facebook as far as the number of friends, so please become a follower of ours on Facebook. Today, I'm going to continue with what I started to do with the financial aspect of what's going on in the country now. We talked about it. We did 2 shows recently on COVID and the ramifications from that. As we know, we do have an election coming up. And who would know, right? You never hear anything about it, right? Hopefully they do have some live debates even in this world of COVID-19. But we're going to talk today on Vice President Joe Biden. We're going to talk about the $2 trillion infrastructure plan that he announced last week with climate control features in that. So I brought in 2 experts to talk to us about that today. One you already know, Pete Losavio, and another new guy I want you all to know. So come on back and find out who the new guy is, because he's a new friend. As you know, so many of my friends are on this show. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And as you see, we're trying to social distance here. So we have 2 financial people with us. You know Pete Losavio, the only certified elder attorney in the state of Louisiana, 500 in the country. He's also an attorney. He's a CPA and a CFP. But sitting next to him, I have a new friend. He is the owner and founder of Game Changers Tax Pro. He also teaches continuing education units to CPAs, and he helps work with people to come in retirement to a tax-free income. So I need to talk to him about that, right? We all want a tax-free income, right? Used converting Roths and other things like that he's an expert on. So Jerry Leinbach, tell us, we'll start with you, Jerry.
What's not being talked about so much, which is going to have to be talked about, is that in 2026 to 2030, somewhere in that range, Medicare runs out of money and starts slashing benefits, not 5 or 10, 20 and 30%. The only way to fix it is with a huge tax to the payroll or somewhere. The second is Social Security. On the Social Security statement, if you're getting a Social Security statement, get it out and look. It says in fine print, we're going to reduce your benefits by 21% in 2035. They're going to raise that to 2030. So unless you are prepared for that, they're going to raise your taxes no matter what. I don't care who's in office, Republican, Democrat.
Yeah, but at least we'll be making more money if Trump can get back to doing what he was doing, removing regulations, giving businesses opportunity to.
And the tax increases that Biden, and he and I talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
The tax increases he's proposing looks like it's only on the wealthy, 400,000 and up.
But it's going to trickle down to some more people.
And the corporations, raising the corporate tax rate 20%, which is a massive jump back to the old tax rates. That will affect lower job income, and it will destroy jobs. You agree on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very concerned about it.
Me too. What's our exit strategy? Pete and I have talked about this after 9/11. We talked about maybe we should leave America before.
Yeah,
and you and I are talking about it now, too.
I think we have gas left in the tank. So we're going to have to get real about what we
So would you rather see Trump be able to bring this economy back as he did by all his...
I think there's better chance of that. And let's don't forget.
What about you, Pete,
Trump
being a Democrat?
Spent more years as a Democrat than he did as a Republican.
Well, he's really an independent.
And so did Reagan for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So,
well, he was in liberal LA. What else can he be?
what their current affiliation maybe has less of a point.
Who would you rather see?
Well, I think
From an American job standpoint.
I think Trump has done an excellent job with the economy. I mean, if you really look at the facts, don't listen.
Get away from the politics.
Yeah, get away from politics. Looks at the facts. The economy is much stronger today than it was when he came in. Now, this COVID crisis has put everything.
Well, we know where it came from too, right?
Yeah, well, China.
China.
Yeah.
So,
and I've never seen a Republican president sign into law so quickly the kind of stimulus to get people back paychecks. I have never seen a Republican president do that. Now, time will tell if that was the right thing to do.
But I think when it got to a lot of the states, and people are blaming him, when it got to a lot of the states, they didn't send out the money as it should have been sent.
Well, that's a state deal, not the
right. But when people, all they know is Trump was supposed to give me this money, the government.
That's right.
But I really think that when you look at the economics of what Biden and Sanders are proposing about this energy plan that they have, it's going to be a catastrophe.
A big time.
Well, I mean, they're talking about spending.
It's a Trojan horse saying we're only going to tax the wealthy. It's going to come back.
And all people are thinking is clean energy, clean energy. That's all they see with this.
But if your utility bill goes up so high that you're having trouble paying your utility bill, who is that affecting most? It's a regressive tax. It hits the poor people, the lower income people, more than it hits the wealthy. I mean,
Yeah, why aren't people saying this somewhere? I mean, I'm a small show. I'm a regional show.
Because of what was the charity you mentioned earlier? Blue. It was the way.
Act Blue.
Act Blue receives money from these corporations.
That's right.
Right.
Jeff Bezos just gave $50 million.
Once it's in the nonprofit space, and Peter, you can help me with this. It can be transferred to other nonprofits. It can be transferred to the DNC. It can be transferred.
I understand that is
places.
how DNC gets a lot of their money through Act Blue, the charity.
Yeah.
So there is tremendous funding.
And it's a rumor that Black Lives Matter, who was started by 3 transgender, which I have no problem with transgender, no one think I do, because I've done shows with transgenders and everyone has a right to a voice. But it was started by 3 black women, and it was started with, and I understand they're Marxists is what it says in some of the literature, right or wrong. If it's wrong, let me know. But also something about denuclearizing and making the society of family more patriotic, less patriotic and more matriotic. Well, we've already done a good job of that in the black, and the fastest growing is the white family.
Are you talking about where there's the denuclearization of the black, the
patriarch from the man to a female?
Primarily, though, was that directed at the black community?
Well, they just started in 2013. It's been going on in the black community a long time.
Intended to be, as I understand.
Well, I think what happened, and this is off a little bit, but just for the black guests out there, I think what happened when Democrats build projects, and you build all these big events, you can get aid to dependent children, but you can't have a man in the house, and you can't learn a skill. What's going to happen? You're going to get rid of men, as far as husbands and real fathers, right?
The real problem.
That's a whole different ballgame. I'm shows on that.
Yeah, I'll just make this one brief statement.
Okay.
Because I deal with this, and Jerry deals with it too, the welfare system in this country is not designed to get people out of poverty.
That's right.
It's designed to keep people in poverty.
That's right, and that's what people don't understand.
And make more dependents.
That's right.
You can bring the middle class in.
That's right.
To this group, little by little. You have a massive voting bloc that will never vote for anybody else other than people that give them what they.
Well, blacks right now are the largest voting bloc in the Democratic presidential election, and they vote Democrats. Bob Johnson, BET founder, last week said black people need to stop. We're 40 million people. We're only 13%, but we're the largest because we all vote very similarly, and usually Democratic. And if you look at all the black politicians in this country, 90% are Democratic, right? You only have Tim Scott, the black senator from Carolina, right? Who's the only black senator in the Republican Party. Because we're kind of groomed, I'm an independent, we're kind of groomed to be Democrats, but that is a major problem.
From Lyndon Johnson.
Huh?
From Lyndon Johnson.
Well, I will say Lyndon Johnson grew up poor, and Lyndon Johnson, to me, did more for this black economy except Trump and Lincoln. Lyndon Johnson gave us Voting Rights Act. He didn't have to do that. He lost a lot of tickets in the South,
right? He lost a lot of political capital.
That's right, by doing that. And he also, didn't he do the Fair Housing Act also? Because Kennedy was dead.
Kennedy proposed it, and Kennedy was probably the biggest outreach changer, I would say since FDR. So
he was only there a year and a half.
FDR, Kennedy,
I think Johnson.
But I certainly
What did
agree with
Kennedy
Johnson.
really get done? Johnson did it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
Johnson did it.
I mean, we could argue and say that it was set up by Kennedy and he finished it.
Yeah, but he didn't have to.
He didn't have to.
And he was the majority whip, and he lost a lot of cookies for doing that.
He lost a lot of political capital.
And I think because he grew up so poor that he could relate to black people. I think he was the last great Democrat.
Well,
I like Johnson.
I don't
see what Kennedy
I don't know
did.
I don't know the truth of this, but I guess you could research it and find it out. And I think he made a mistake when he said this. But when he passed the Medicare bill, Medicare and Medicaid bill, he said that African Americans would be voting Democrat for 50 years.
Well, he got it right, didn't he?
Well, I think it's going to be longer than 50 years.
Yeah, 100.
it might be 100
Unless
years.
we can make some changes now.
Yeah, but 100 years. I mean, I think
we shouldn't vote by party. We should vote by project of what they're saying.
But there are a lot of
and doing.
There are a lot of intelligent people that I know.
You can't argue with them on this one.
Well, no, but they vote the party.
That's right.
They don't care about the candidate. They vote the party.
He doesn't.
That's right.
From what I understand.
I know more than you, but black people vote the party.
I'm an independent thinker.
And I'm an independent, so
I'm an independent thinker.
disagree all the time.
I think we all are independent thinkers. I think I've gathered that.
I vote the man.
You vote what?
I vote the man. I
vote the person.
Yeah. You vote for that person I told you not to vote for 10 years ago. I think I changed your thinking. You and another friend of mine, my two attorneys and you, were all voting for that person.
You know what's great about this? What's great about a gathering like this is the fact that we are politically different.
Right.
And there are some differences, but we remain civil, and that's how this country got started.
And I hate that now.
Benjamin Franklin started that with something called the junta. And, he had to get people together because their emotions would take over.
Right.
And he shut them down and says, look, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to learn from debate. We may not change each other's mind, but if we have
That's right.
If we don't remain
Let's talk about
civil,
facts. That's right.
Yeah, and unite us on our things that we're alike. And where we do have some things that we are alike as Americans.
Right.
And we do have some things to be
and the things that we should want for each other. That's the name of my show. Between black and white, I say always shades of gray. And that's the way I've tried to run the show. Now, get me out of here sometimes arguing with some other people that may be different.
We have a common goal, though, whether you are poor and completely on government assistance, whether you are middle class and earning various different credits, or whether you're wealthy, we all have this. If we don't fix this system with eventually a large tax increase, and I'm a Republican saying we need big tax increase. I know that's crazy.
And you're talking about if Trump is reelected or Biden are elected.
At 26, you're going to see massive tax changes, not because of politics, but because of mathematics.
Financial need.
Yeah, I mean,
we have got ourselves based on from all four last presidents in a financial dilemma that's beyond belief. What are we paying every day, y'all, on the debt? To China.
Right now, it's the third largest expense on our expenditure out of 3,000 programs. Interest on the debt's number 3. It's actually Social Security, Medicare interest on the debt. 15 years ago, interest on the debt was much lower. In less than 6 or 7 years.
So it was really Bush and Obama who did it?
Well, so back to your point earlier before the show, we talked about, do you think, Jerry, some Republican leadership has some blame here? Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
We had decades of a chance to try to fix that.
Yeah.
But we are all victims, presidents are victims of their parties.
Because the budget was almost balanced under Clinton and Newt Gingrich, wasn't it? Because Newt and him kind of came to the middle,
Actually, yeah. You could, and we could argue who it was.
Yeah, but now there's so much vitriol between. I mean, I was listening a little bit.
Like it.
Did y'all see A.G. Barr? He was before the Senate today. I mean, the way they jumped on him and talked to him.
Yeah.
And so many lies. People even said Martin Luther King. I was reading some stuff saying Martin Luther King was for violence.
Oh, no.
Where you get that out? You sent that to me. On the Atlantic, and I sent that to some people, and people are saying that he was for violence.
You know, I was personally going name, but I was out at dinner with somebody very well educated,
right?
Democrat, LSU, professor and all, and we were having dinner, and
I know about LSU professors,
and he said that about. What's going on in Portland and all that, and I said that, that Martin Luther King, that wasn't his approach to violence. I said he was nonviolent and he accomplished things through peaceful protests,
not riots.
And this guy strongly disagreed with me. I didn't get.
Were you paying for dinner? You should have said you pay for your own.
He paid for dinner. He paid for dinner.
Okay. Well, I guess he could say what he wanted.
He did pay for dinner, but anyway. And so after the dinner, he sent me that article that I sent to you, know, and all. But I grew up when Martin Luther King was leading the civil rights movement.
Right.
And he was nonviolent.
Right.
He was nonviolent.
He learned from Gandhi. He went to visit Gandhi, I think.
So, they can say what they want, and they can write all this stuff that he was a proponent of violence, but that is absolutely a falsehood.
Right.
He said, and I always remember this, he said that the only force on this earth that will change an enemy into a friend is love. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that is a very true statement, because
yes.
if you're violent to somebody, it just creates more violence.
That's right.
And so,
violence begets violence, right?
He accomplished what he did through nonviolent
That's
means.
right. And they would kick him and beat him, and those were times when people were really rioting. The police were bad then.
Well,
they were bad against black peaceful protesters.
More largely for sure than today, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, much more. I mean, there are a few bad apples, but 50% of all police chiefs are black or Hispanic or minority.
Right.
In New York, 60% are minority. So what are we really doing here, right?
But I really feel bad that it's not correct, and it kind of destroys Martin Luther King's
how old a guy was this guy? 40, 35?
About 40.
He should, but he's a professor. It seems like it's almost like in Afghanistan. They teach people from kids to hate Americans.
Let me tell you
it seems
where
like they're teaching people to hate
you're right.
Republicans.
Where that comes from overseas, when we see radical religions and we can't figure out over here how in the world could they ever believe a thing, or when you have a college professor that is going to dinner with a colleague and he says something like what he's misquoted, it comes from this. It comes from continuously being in an echo chamber, not hearing anything else.
Right.
And when you hear something over and over and over, your human
you believe it.
will trade it to fact.
That's right.
It's this defamation of Martin Luther King's legacy.
But it's not only him. What bothers me, his whole thought pattern is based on these kinds of things that he heard, and a lot of them are not true. It's not just Martin Luther King.
Well, people
it's many.
People approve of this violence. I mean, somehow or another they've been.
I can't believe. They were peaceful protests. They burning down the federal building in Minnesota. I saw a black couple on that they had 35 years old. They had saved all their life savings to build a cafe, and they were on happened to be Fox. I watched them all. And they said, all their life savings was gone, and the guys had went in and looted and taken all the food. They were opening up the next week, so they had no insurance. And then the next day they went and they came back and took the rest of the meat out of the freezer. I mean, you look at the police captain in St. Louis, the retired 77-year-old that they killed looting the jewelry store. Yeah. Retired St. Louis police captain, black man, shot him in the back of the head. So, 900, I think, police have been hurt doing this. I don't see too many rioters have been hurt doing it. And we want peaceful protesters. That's how you change this country. That's how you change anything. And we have the right to do that. But you don't have the right to burn down anybody's buildings and homes. And I just don't know where we're going.
But what's portrayed in the news and the media doesn't talk about that. It talks about the police attacking these protesters, but it doesn't talk about.
And it only shows snippets of what really happened. Even I think with Lafayette Park, I saw the entire part of that, and Barr was at Senate committee today, and I did hear he said what you didn't see was before it wasn't tear gas, it's some kind of other bombs they throw that are non-lethal, but they had also attacked some of the city police in Lafayette Park, I think, before the protesters had. And that's not peaceful protest.
No,
that's rioters.
No, we definitely have some real challenges right now culturally.
I'm gonna have to tell you, I watch all three, but the one I find out to be the best to tell the true picture, and then I investigate, is Fox News. I have to say that. I watch all three. And I saw in fact, the two black young men, 14, 16 boys, teenagers, got killed in the chop zone, right? Where they were raping people, doing drugs and everything when they took over Seattle. One was, both of them were black. And Horace Anderson Hannity had the black guy come on his show, the only person that had him come on. And President Trump called him the next day. He was crying like a baby about his son. And Hannity, he said, I will always thank you for what you've done for me. So if you listen to the propaganda against Fox, I think, look for yourself. If you want to see a Louisiana girl, you can see Arthel Neville on there every Saturday for 2 hours. And if you want to see a black woman who's interviewed the President of the United States, you'll see Harris Faulkner.
Is that Neville? She related to...
Yeah, she's one of the Nevilles from New Orleans. Arthel Neville. She's been on at least 10 years, I would think. And there's so many black women, and hey, like Howard Stern said, if you want to see a good-looking woman, turn to Fox, and they're smart.
Well, Howard Stern must know something about women, I would think.
If you watch Fox, they've got some sharp women on Fox. And they're all colors, Hispanic, Indian, white, everything.
Funny thing is, Fox is now in control of this younger son of Murdoch, right?
Yes, he's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat.
But it is more, I can tell you, I do see a little bit of change.
I think he's a smart business person.
Yeah.
Which goes back to your conservative principles. You can be liberal in your thinking about art, and politics, and war, but when it comes to business, there's only one way to run a successful business.
Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Jerry had to leave, but we've got Pete here to do the closing remarks. And Jerry wanted me to say that he thinks this is a job killer. You're probably Joe Biden's plan, and he would go with Donald Trump's plan. So what's your analysis?
About Biden's energy efficiency and
$2 trillion infrastructure bill.
Yeah, $2. I think the problem with it is that it is going to increase cost of energy. Okay, and it's also going to make us dominant, make us dependent upon China, and make China dominant over our energy. And the energy is the lifeblood of this country. And then I think, as far as the environment is concerned, it is going to have a negative impact on the rural environment. I think that's why the people who live in rural areas don't want the turbine farms there, and don't want the high energy transmission lines going through their
because
property.
that causes cancer, you're saying? It can.
There's been some studies that suggest it, it has a lot of problems with it, but I mean, nobody wants a 350 million volt line going next to next going
like
there.
You don't want a nuclear power plant sometimes next to you either, right? But
so,
this is worse, sounds like.
So it just doesn't make economic sense. I think it's questionable.
Now the infrastructure, and we didn't talk about this, and I'll just bring this up a minute. Some of the stuff I thought was okay when he was talking about having clean, like commuter trains, more trains around that was solar energy trains, and we have too much mass transportation on the highways in this country, and I thought that's what he was saying in part of the bill. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's good. I mean,
somebody needs to do it because Trump was supposed to do infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, the infrastructure in this country needs to be revamped substantially. We have so many bad bridges, so many bad highways. And
I don't know what happened. I guess the 4 years that Trump was in, it was always one catastrophe after another one.
Well, it's really interesting. If you look at the history of that, when President Obama was in, he proposed a bill to fix the infrastructure. And the Democrats voted for it, and the Republicans voted against it, so it didn't pass.
Right.
And now that Trump's in, he's basically sponsored the same bill to fix the infrastructure, and now the Republicans vote in favor of it, and the Democrats vote against it, so it doesn't get passed.
Same problem.
But it's exactly
parties.
Basically the same bill.
Yeah.
It's basically the same bill. And
but it seems like in this country now, the Democrats are only going to go with Nancy Pelosi, and the Republicans go with, that's why I'd hate to see a one-party system, the House, the presidency, and the Senate, all one party. That's a dictatorship, pretty much.
Well, they need to learn how to work together.
They're not going to do that, I don't think, in our lifetime now. This is not Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. I think it's over for that in America because everybody wants to win. And they'll put falsehood out, they'll do anything, but because we do have a three-party system, I don't think we need one party, all of anything.
I agree with that.
They have to be because you have no dissension. Everything, with dissension comes better ideas.
Yeah.
So I hope that, so both of you all are in agreement that the Donald Trump to continue to move this country forward would probably be better, and solar energy is not the place to go. I had no idea that that would be dominated by China, and is dominated by China in the world like most everything else.
Well, it's because of those raw earth elements.
Yeah.
It's they control that market, and you need those raw earth elements to produce the solar panels, and you need it to produce for the wind turbines to work. Yeah. And so we would be trading our independence on energy for dependence having on China.
And we already so depend on China, and it seems like everything happened, and Trump was right to try to bring some of this back into America.
And you know, we've seen in history
Supply
now
chain.
from that situation with Japan and the
Gulf, what sea was
the
that?
trawler,
Yeah.
Sea of Japan.
Yeah.
And also this latest bout with the coronavirus, that they will threaten us with cutting us off.
Right, and that's why, again, the administration is trying to bring that back into, we have to make our own antibiotics. We cannot be dependent on everybody else for anything. Medicines.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Talking about chemical warfare, that would be medical warfare.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the state news agency for China said, hey, you keep criticizing us, we'll stop sending the medical supplies over there and you'll have a pandemic hell.
We got a pandemic hell now because they didn't tell us about the COVID-19 and new novel corona when they knew about it.
Yeah.
And caused us to be, although we did close our borders first before any other country.
That was Trump that did that, too.
Trump did that. That's right.
So
and he wanted to cut the eastern border, but Cuomo and them they wouldn't let him.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's
we're in a pickle.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. How do you want to close it out, Pete?
Well, thank you for inviting me here.
You're always welcome. Always thanks for your expertise. And I tell, the more I read, the more I talk to people, I'm become more afraid for this country of what's going on. It's really scary.
Yeah. Well, we'll survive.
Yeah, maybe not in America, but we're going to get an escape plan. A friend of mine went to Dominican Republic and bought them some property the other day. And so, anyway, come on back for Dianne Andrews Close. Thank you very much. Welcome back for the close for Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And as you know, I always try to bring some levity into my shows and try to make a critical situation at least a little lighter for us to understand, because between black and white there are always shades of gray, as I always say. But I will tell you, we have more turmoil in this country right now than I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I'm sure than you've ever seen in your lifetime. And one thing we have to learn how to be is more civil. If we could just stop, look, and listen to each other and agree to disagree. On my shows, I have learned to agree to disagree with people and just learn the facts. Don't take, again, one snippet of information. Try to find out the real facts so you're making your life's decisions on true facts, not on, again, vitriol from a Democrat or vitriol from a Republican or from an independent, because I think then your life will be better. And we shouldn't all be one party, because we're not monolithic people. And whatever that party, but if you think you should, then you stay with whatever you think your life brings you best. But if we look around and just look up what Bob Johnson, the former former founder of BET, Black Entertainment Television, and look at some other people, Larry Elders and some other people who are saying some things that we all need to hear. But at the end of the day, I love you all. And I love doing the show, and I love bringing you the information. And whether you agree or disagree, I thought I would bring more differing opinions between a Democrat and a Republican. But money's money and finance is finance, and what they see happens to be the same thing going on in our country. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week on Dianne Andrews in Black and White.